Prejudice means prejudging people.
Prejudice is the feeling, not the action. So basically thinking somebody is less than you.
And it might be prejudice against a particular group of people or a disability, for example.
Bias that's used to discriminate against people, be it either age, gender, religion, the clothes that you wear.
It's about that inequality, I think, isn't it? It's about people not being treated the same. It's about being treated differently because of who you are or what you do.
In terms of the preconceived ideas you might have about a particular individual or group.
I grew up in apartheid South Africa. The whole thing was discrimination.
The whole system was set up in a racist way.
So I was raised by a maid called Miriam, and Miriam left her home and her children to raise me while both my parents worked.
We were treated very differently depending on our colour, our race.
And I remember at the age of about 8, my maid, or my other mother, because honestly she raised me, getting arrested by the police. And I remember waiting at the police station for 3 hours, and because my mom was white and we were white, Miriam was released, but she wasn't released unharmed. She was beaten.
I can tell you that I've been faced with racism, but not necessarily tell you that I've had someone being prejudiced or discriminatory against me, and that's probably because it's normally done behind my back.
I've definitely experienced prejudice for being a woman in society.
Men and women still aren't equal, still not equal pay, still not things like that.
I feel like it happens so often, you can almost normalise it sometimes.
I was asked if I could to tick the box, say I was gay, but wasn't happy to do that because once I'm lying, and two, I'm not going to use that to get into a certain job.
I will always have that prejudice that I have to fight against every single day of my life because of how I was brought up. Educate yourself, travel, see the world, recognize it when you see it. And I think that's what puts me in quite a good position, is because I grew up in it. I recognize it in other countries.
We have to understand what bias is and prejudice is and make sure that we don't bring those factors into our decision making.
Our training was like a verse from the Quran that says, like, we've created you into different nations and tribes so that you may know each other. And that's, for me, on a personal and a community basis, it's about knowing the other, getting to know, breaking down the barriers, not actually just shutting down the conversation, but actually taking time to know the other person that's complete opposites to you so that you can break the barriers and get to know that person and accept their culture.
I think we witness it. I think we still witness it in schools. I think some of the language that children use is still quite discriminatory, is still quite prejudiced.
Everyone is equal from whatever background they come from.
So not overlooking it. And I think if we all begin to do that, then it will spread wider. And as a society, we all let each other know we don't like it. That'd be the first big step, I think.
It's important to actually have that dialogue with a child and explain what they've done and why they've done it.
Especially for the new generation now, we use social media as a very powerful tool, and I believe that could be a very powerful tool to spread awareness and develop the education of this specific topic.
It's about understanding that the dignity and worth of everybody is absolutely should be supported.
And a lot of the things that were happening to Anne Frank and a lot of people during these times, I don't think Anne Frank fully knew herself why she was in a situation that she was in, because I'm assuming as she grew up, she never identified as that different from the community, and it's about how these behaviours led up to what happened, and it's about recognising the issues associated with that.
I think using Anne Frank is a great way of saying, listen, we're lucky where we are today.
I think there's always messages to be able to, learn from.
They're definitely still relevant because we could let something like that happen again if we're not careful. Racism and prejudice and discrimination hasn't ended, and unless we're aware enough of it, it'll build again and it'll only become worse.
It's still an important message that we can bring to the next generation.
Because they're still happening. We as people naturally discriminate. We naturally are prejudiced towards others. We're always looking for differences. How am I better than this person? We're always looking for that. And we ourselves have to combat that.
It's just kind of getting the message out there and everyone doing their little bit.
So if we cultivate friendships, then even though we have differences, we can celebrate those differences.